You don't want to miss this. There is no denying that Disney's upcoming Snow White looks less like a remake and more like a bizarre fever dream. From the bizarre casting choices to the complete rewriting of the original story, this film's shaping up to be a disaster. With the release just a week away, we're covering an episode from Piers Morgan's show when he brought on critical drinker and nerdrotic who tore the movie apart and ended up making some great points, as always. And today we're breaking it all down. As always, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos just like this.
Because this is a movie that was made in 1937 and is being remade in 2024, and you sit here moaning about the differences between those two movies like 1937 were the glory days.
What?
Well, what are you talking about? Why are you offended by this movie? Why do you think people are not like...
Because they replaced the dwarves with CGI abominations. They are pretending like Rachel Zegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film. Somehow Gal Gadot,
so
who's
rude,
easily one of the top 10 most attractive women on the planet, is some evil, ugly stepmother, which she is not. I don't know how she burst out laughing.
Yeah, none
saying,
of it
who's
works.
the first of them all,
None
and
of it
looking
is
at
actually
Rachel.
the truth.
Yeah.
That's podcaster and comedian, self-claimed, James Barr, proving once again that he just doesn't get it. He's completely missing the point of why people are criticizing Disney's Snow White remake. It's not only about changing the story, it's about their nonstop push to inject SJW messaging into everything, even at the expense of the original material. I swear, Disney must do their audience testing with people who think exactly like him. Otherwise, how do we keep getting one out-of-touch project after another? It's almost like they've given up on making movies that appeal to the general audience and are instead catering to a tiny hyper-progressive crowd that eats this stuff up. Critical Drinker also gave his take, and he perfectly explained the problem with the 7 magical creatures.
Yeah, so what they've obviously tried to do is retain the artistic aesthetic of the cartoon from the 1930s, but transpose it into a live-action movie, and it just looks horrific. It's so out of place. And when you see them dancing next to Rachel Zegler, who's an actual human actor, it just looks awful. They don't match up. They're deep into the uncanny valley. It is the worst possible choice they could have made. It would have been so much... It would be so much easier if they just used actual dwarf actors. I don't know why they haven't done that.
Why is no one offended about the new Lord of the Rings show on Amazon where they have actors, non-dwarf actors playing dwarfs? Why are we not talking about that? Why is no one offended about that? Why are we just picking on Disney?
Well, I am now you mentioned it.
Yeah,
well, you should be.
There's room for
we could have got them in.
But there isn't, is there? You're just firing
I'm offended
outrage
about the whole
at
show,
Snow
personally,
White because they're trying to do something different.
Hey, man. You want to talk to me about Rings of Power? I will talk your ear off for hours,
Let's
but
go.
we're here to discuss Snow White, so what do you want me to say?
And at least Rings of Power got one thing right. The dwarves actually looked like dwarves. Meanwhile, Disney was about to use the 7 hobos, as Matt Walsh likes to put it. We were supposed to get a bizarre, diverse group of regular-sized people who looked like they had just wandered in from a modern-day protest rally. After the massive backlash, Disney panicked. They delayed the movie by a year, scrapping their original reimagined take on the 7 dwarves, and went back to using CGI, and let me tell you, it's bad. Peter Jackson set a new standard for computer-generated characters using Smeagol. Disney just dragged the entire industry back to the Stone Age, and that's how awful these characters look, in my opinion.
This is where political correctness paints itself into a corner every single time. You find yourself with very strange bedfellows in this. And it's not just the actors, it's Disney fans. Disney fans are offended by Rachel Zegler's comments, disrespecting the movie that made Disney. And this is why there is 1 million dislikes on this trailer. And it's a culmination of creative bankruptcy. If this movie just existed on its own, it probably wouldn't be that much of a controversy. But if you add a singular Peter Dinklage interview that cost dwarf actors their jobs, and Zegler out there popping off and fanning the flames, along with everything Disney's done over the last 6 years, you have Snow White.
Exactly. Time to talk about Rachel Zegler for a minute. This young lady could be best described as every publicist's worst nightmare. She made comments like, "Our version's a refreshing story about a young woman who has a function beyond someday. My prince will come." Her hate for the prince is particularly evident as she was quoted saying, quote, "The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so," adding, "There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time." It's almost as if Disney cast a person with zero knowledge about the actual values the story wants to portray. James decided to respond to the fair criticism of the panel with the most absurd argument, and the way Critical Drinker puts him in his place, pure perfection.
Because Disney are trying to make the world a better place, and you want to live in 1937.
Nobody at Disney's making the world a better place, man. And I don't know why you keep using the word outrage. No one's outraged about this movie. People are laughing at it because it's a joke. It is a culmination of everything bad about modern movie making. You've got a movie called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that doesn't have dwarves in it. You've got the fairest of them all, who's put up against Gal Gadot, and somehow Gal Gadot is jealous of Rachel Zegler. And you've got a story about the search for true love that's no longer about true love.
It's about power.
What even is this movie?
Spot on as always, Will. Just because we're pointing out how ridiculous this is doesn't mean that we're outraged. Far from it. We're just laughing at how Hollywood has turned into a competition, with studios working overtime to outdo each other when it comes to fake virtue signaling. By the way, this video is really just a PSA so that you don't end up wasting your time or money on yet another Disney disaster. Check out Friday Night Tights, that's Nerdrotics podcast, or as I mentioned, Open Bar with Drinker. They'll tell you all the things to just stay away from. So if you're planning on skipping this mess like I am, go ahead and please drop a like. Piers also shared his theory on a vital plot point, and he caught everyone off guard with it.
If you want to remake the movie, just remake the movie in live action, note for note. It would probably be much better. But it's so obvious now because of the blight of intersectionality that's spread throughout our entire society that we can't have a woman holding a broom. Not that Rachel Zegler would know what to do with a broom other than fly on it, but I mean, that's what it is, and it's predictable, and it's what Drinker just said. It's nobody's outraged. It's mockery.
And we all know. We all know. I haven't seen it yet, but I would lay even money. The moment Prince Charming moves in for the kiss while she's asleep, he gets arrested.
Yeah, exactly. Immediately.
I mean, he
hasn't given consent.
Arrested and taken off to Harvey Weinstein's prison.
The original.
He'll, of course, be canceled first by the SJW mob, and Rachel Maddow will call him misogynistic and a bigot. To wrap things up, I'll leave you with Morgan's final thoughts on the entire fiasco, and he does actually make some very valid points.
And the Jossie, that Disney have just had a monster hit this summer, haven't they?
Yeah. Two. They've had two. They've had actually a pretty good year.
Yeah.
If you think about it, Planet of the Apes, most with Fox properties, but Planet of the Apes did okay. Alien Romulus is doing pretty good. Inside Out 2 was the biggest movie of the year.
And you know what none of them
Deadpool
did?
and Wolverine is still crushing it.
Right, and none of them went down this stupid road. Right? In other words, when Disney just does what we want Disney to do, which is make great movies. I think Disney's a great company, historically a fantastic company, and it's done some great stuff this summer. Just do what you're good at. You don't need to do this stuff. If you just brought out a movie with Snow White and dwarf actors, everyone would have gone, great.
Honestly, I think this movie's performance might be a turning point for Disney's plans. We saw them change course after Marvel's terrible Phase 4 numbers, so remember, you can always vote with your pocket and take a stand against their attempts at rewriting the stories that were a huge part of all of our childhoods. Doesn't matter if you're well older than I am, and I'd love to know your thoughts here, so let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.